Welcome to FoxTales Movie Club. I'm Sebastian Fox.
And I'm Tony Sherman. Each video, we take a chosen movie and lead a discussion on our thoughts and opinions.
We'll be getting into the character, plot, and the technical achievements with no regard for spoilers.
So if you haven't seen this movie and don't want to hear said spoilers or details, you have been warned.
Also stick around to the end of the video to hear the next video's topic.
Today's video is The Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
Yeah, this is a good movie. After watching through it this time, this is actually one of my favorite movies.
Really?
So,
What makes it your favorite movie? What stood out to you?
definitely the cinematography. Just the way this movie is shot is beautiful. But also the character of Walter Mitty. I guess he speaks to me kind of. I've had times in my life where I've just daydreamed a lot. So.
Sure.
That just kind of, and that awkwardness just kind of, I like that. It just speaks to me.
Yeah, very, very interesting, yeah.
One thing I do really like about this movie too is the love interest of Cheryl Melhoff, because I feel like in most directors would have taken that character and just kind of made her likable, but wouldn't have given her a ton of character. But I feel like this movie really made her a real character. You can just learn a lot about her just by watching her rather than because she likes mystery and she's following him throughout this entire story because of the mystery, and she kind of likes Walter from the beginning. It's not something that after he goes on this journey now he's someone that she can like.
Right.
She's actually given
interested in him and interested in what he's trying to figure out.
Yes.
She's more than just a love interest in the movie. She's an actual kind of plot point that's pushing Walter forward throughout the story, rather than just being something that he's chasing after. There's other aspects that he's going after as well.
Yes, definitely.
Going to Walter Mitty's growth, that was something that I found very interesting as well. Seemed like a very kind of simple story, just a lost photo, a lost film negative, and we have to go and try and find it. And then all of a sudden, it becomes this massive adventure for Walter Mitty to go and explore the globe to try and find this photographer and see what can we do to find this print, this quintessence of life, so to speak.
Yeah, I did kind of wonder if some of these locations were just chosen so that the people making the movie had a excuse to go here and shoot in these locations.
Yeah, I've heard that story before about other films as well. I would not put it past them to decide on some of those locations. It's absolutely beautiful. Especially Iceland was one of my favorites. Being able to see some of those very wide landscape shots and everything, being able to see the mountains and the hills throughout. Yeah. And
one of my favorite scenes is when he's just going down the hill in Iceland, just on the skateboard. Yeah. With his indestructible tie around his hands. Yeah,
I don't know how that didn't just get ripped to shreds, but somehow it just kind of holds together. Maybe it's made of vibranium or something like that. Who knows? Yeah.
So Walter works for Time magazine.
Life.
Yes, the Life and Time.
So let's...
yes, Life.
Yes. So Walter works for Life magazine, and they have a motto, and that motto pops up throughout the film in several different points, and it's something that seems like several of the characters want to try and follow and adhere to, and it seems to kind of fit with this theme of the movie to go out and explore, to find new things, discover new things, and
also to connect with other people.
Right. Yeah, to connect with other people. Where, especially with Walter Mitty and Sean O'Connell,
yes,
it seems as if they knew each other and they had like a working relationship, and it seemed as if
even though they'd never met.
Met. So Sean O'Connell seemed to see Walter Mitty as a friend, and Walter Mitty seemed to see Sean O'Connell as a friend, but they never had that actual physical connection of meeting each other until near the very end of the film.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even that, trying to develop that connection and develop that friendship between each other throughout the entire film as he's chasing after him, trying to find him.
Yeah, and out of that relationship, at the end, Sean calls him a ghost cat.
Right.
Because he says the ghost cats, or he says something like beautiful things don't ask to be seen.
Right. Right.
And the whole movie is kind of like, it ends with him with Walter on the cover of Time. Yes,
Life.
Saying the right Life. I don't know.
Life.
Okay.
Yes.
Don't know why I keep messing that up, but
yeah, I was doing the same thing.
Yeah. Very similar words.
Very similar. Yeah. Time and life.
4 letters.
Same kind of sound.
Yeah. But that kind of, the fact that Walter kind of has this beauty that no one really recognizes, kind of, I feel like that's kind of a big part of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, even when Walter asks him when they're in the mountains, he says, "Well, what was on the negative?" Yeah. And Sean O'Connell says, "Well, let's just call it a ghost cat, Walter Mitty."
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm thinking, let's just call it a ghost cat, Walter Mitty, or let's just call it a ghost cat, Walter Mitty. And it's that whole idea.
Both work.
They both work very well. Yeah, and we see that. That Walter Mitty craves that affirmation and that acceptance throughout the entire movie. He has this need for people to like him. He's in the first scene, he's trying to send the wink to Cheryl, and he's trying to say, okay, what can I do to get her to notice me? Well, I don't really have anything in my profile. So when he's speaking to the eHarmony rep,
Todd
Mahar, trying to figure out, what should I be putting in my profile, as he's standing there on the train, the subway station, he goes into that first daydream where he hears a dog barking and then rushes into this burning building and saves everyone and creates this crazy prosthetic for the 3-legged dog. So he has these dreams and these ideals that he wants to live up to and have people recognize that.
Yes.
But at that beginning of the movie, he doesn't quite have that.
Yeah. Also, with the dream sequences, I thought the cinematography was interesting because, like, outside of them, especially in the first half, the movie shot very still and the colors are very just grays and blues. But when he starts daydreaming, he starts getting a lot more saturation.
Yeah.
And then a lot more camera movement. I just thought that was a nice touch.
Yeah. Definitely seeing that. Yeah.
Although a few of them, it's kind of hard to tell where they start.
where the daydream starts and where reality ends. It seems like there's a bit of a blurring there. A little bit hard to tell in some of them, but I kind of get the feeling, are some of these, like, to what extent are these real? And we get a little bit of confirmation in some of them that they've happened. One of the main ones that I picked up on was with the buyout, the merger, when these executives are kind of bullying Walter Mitty and are trying to throw this paperclip at him, and they're taunting him with Major Tom, trying to say, he's out in space, he's not even paying attention to his surroundings. And we see them throw this paperclip, and he comes out of this daydream, and they move on. And we see that song and references to that song come back throughout the film, with it being, I feel as if that's also kind of a telling of the theme of this movie as well. Getting into going out into space and exploring and trying to reach the unknown, so to speak.
Yes. Yeah, I was also wondering, with that song, do you know if it came from anywhere in the movie? Because it just kind of...
Yeah, maybe it seems to just kind of come from within his head.
Just Ted kind of calls him that. I was wondering if it was playing the elevator beforehand. Yeah. Because I think it was a different song. But...
I think it was a different song, that was playing in the elevator that caught his attention. But, I don't remember it playing prior to his reference there. But when we see it making a very big comeback is when Walter Mitty is
in Greenland
at the bar, and he decides, I'm not going to get onto this helicopter with this drunk pilot. That's not a good idea. That's not going to be safe. I'm going to have to figure something else out. And this song plays, and he makes this resolution of, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to have to, take this step. And the lyrics, even when he is jumping into the helicopter, it's playing the lines, "Here I am sitting in a tin can."
Yes.
It has this tiny helicopter trying to hover and make its way over the ocean. So we see kind of a parallel from the song to the scene that we're seeing in the movie as well.
Yes. Yeah, I think the pilot there did a good job in this movie. I think he was a very interesting character, even though he didn't have much screen time.
Yeah. Seemed like kind of a minor character, but was kind of a pivotal moment for Walter Mitty, where he still had a lot of that hesitancy and, was unsure, like, well, I need to be able to do this, but I don't know what steps I'm willing to take to be able to achieve this goal.
Yeah. And I think they did a good job with a lot of the small characters in this movie, because it introduces that character with him singing on stage with the karaoke, and he's heartbroken because he just broke up with his girlfriend.
Right.
So it kind of gives him this backstory that you wouldn't normally have. Mm-hmm. And then once Walter gets to the boat, he meets that sailor who starts making all the references to American culture.
American culture, right.
And I just feel like it's a good way to connect the audience to these characters that don't really, it makes them feel more real.
More real, more human, that we don't see them for very many scenes. They don't necessarily have very many lines, but we as the audience can fill in those gaps and fill in the blanks of what's shown as their character and be able to see, well, what else can we kind of extrapolate from what we know about them to create a more fleshed out character. Yeah.
So we've mentioned the beard guy, Ted.
Yes, Ted.
That was interesting, having, what's his name? I can't think of his name right now. The actor.
Adam Scott?
Adam Scott, yes. It was interesting because the only thing I had seen him in previously before this movie was Parks and Recreation. And watching it the first time, I was like, oh, hey, it's Ben.
Yeah.
And then he starts talking, and I was like, nope, that's not Ben.
No. Yeah. Very different character, and it was very interesting to see him play in kind of a more antagonistic role that we don't really get to see in his character in Parks and Rec. So very interesting to see that side of his acting. And probably very exciting for him to be able to play a different kind of role than he might have been used to with Parks and Rec.
I do feel like the writing for the character, though, I think it was intended, but that character, he doesn't have as much redeeming qualities.
Sure.
He does kind of get redeemed a little bit at the end.
Right.
When Walter gives him the picture and gives him that speech about...
What is life's motto? What is our motto?
Yeah, and also, you're kicking all these people out, but these people, they've worked hard for this magazine. And then when you finally see the last cover, it's dedicated to the people who made it.
Yeah. So there's a bit of that comeuppance, and hopefully, you hope to see that he grew from that as the new kind of manager owner of this new online magazine that they're trying to do. That you hope that there's a little bit of that learning from that experience. Yeah.
Yeah, I did like the moment with him where he didn't know what quintessence was.
Right.
And he has to get told by the lackey behind him. And then he turns around and he kind of starts like just repeating what the guy said.
Yeah. This essence,
trying to sound.
This fullness, this richness of life. Yeah. Right. Very. Yeah. Those little comedy bits that they kind of just throw in there.
Yeah, Ben Stiller's a good because Ben Stiller directed this, but he also directed Zoolander.
Right.
So he's a great comedic director.
Oh yeah. I
like just a little bit thrown in here.
Yeah, here and there. Right.
I don't know if you noticed with Ted as well. At the end, when Walter walks into that meeting, Ted's pitching what the cover should be.
Right.
And it's no photo on the cover. No
photo on the cover. Yeah.
I think the last time I watched it, it was like the first time I noticed that.
Right. Yeah, and has like all of these like pros and cons of why should we have no photo on the cover? It's a huge shock factor. Maybe it's it'll be crowd pleasing, attention grabbing for good reasons.
Yeah.
And then it's like good question mark reasons.
But it's kind of it goes against what Life magazine is, because Life magazine's always has these great covers.
Right.
So I mean it is eye grabbing, but it's not true to what the magazine has been.
Exactly. And we see several different covers of Life magazine throughout the film, and they're always these very adventurous, huge shots of different people and actions taking place. And we see in one of the scenes as Walter Mitty is running down the hallway, we see the motto coming up on some of those covers. Yeah. And so we see that kind of connection there as well, with the motto attaching itself onto the covers and as Walter Mitty's running down the hallway.
Yeah. So just a couple of people we haven't talked about is Walter's family.
Right.
His sister and mom. What did you think about them?
Yeah. I found it very interesting that the mother character at first seemed to come off kind of airheaded and kind of ditzy and not paying attention, not aware of what's going on around her. And we see by the end of the film, she knew exactly what was going on in several key points of the film.
Yeah.
She pulls Walter Mitty's wallet out of the trash can, the gift that Sean gave him that held the quintessence of life, held the photo, the film negative that they were looking for the entire movie. And she says, well, I always hold on to your knickknacks.
Yeah, so, and a lot of this came back because she was holding on to his backpack that he used in the Himalayas,
the backpack,
travel notebook, and all that.
Yeah. So while at first introduction, at first glance, my impression being this person, just kind of this elderly mother character who's just going to be maybe a little bit of comedic relief, and ends up being kind of almost the savior of the film, grabbing a hold of the wallet at that key moment.
I feel like that introducing a character and it kind of feeling like they're comic relief, but then they actually aren't, kind of happens a couple times, because with Todd Mahar that kind of happens too, because he keeps calling throughout the movie, and it's very comedic, but then in the end he comes back, he helps Walter out, and he finally returns to the US.
Right, and saves him from the TSA. And speaking of that, I thought it was really funny that after he pulls him out of the TSA, treats him to a Cinnabon and says, how long were you held by TSA? 17 hours. That Cinnabon must be like liquid heroin then. I'm like, well, he just came back from Afghanistan and was just held by the TSA for 17 hours. You probably shouldn't be mentioning heroin at a time like this. So yeah, a very nice play with that comedy and serious kind of character, Patton Oswalt. Yeah.
And I definitely like, because the calls throughout the movie, even though they seem just purely comedic, they do a lot for the character. Because like the first two, he's just kind of asking Walter just like, where, like, you don't have anything on your profile, so
where
can I get some, like, where have you been, what have you done?
Yeah.
And it makes Walter kind of face the fact that he hasn't really done anything with his life. Because when Walter was a kid, he used to like ride a skateboard and have a mohawk, and he wanted to do stuff with his life. And then he kind of got forced into getting a job and growing up.
Right, yeah. I thought that was very interesting that he starts off having that very adventurous kind of character within him, and his dad encouraged that. His dad had that travel journal, you know.
His dad shaved his head himself.
Exactly. Yeah, very, very nice dad move there. And when Walter Mitty's dad dies, that's when Walter Mitty thinks, oh, I need to become a man.
Yes.
I need to become, you know, a proper haircut, go and get a job, provide for the family. And while those are great things and very noble of him to do that, it went against a lot of what it seemed like his dad was trying to instill in him. That kind of adventurous, be a man that doesn't necessarily need to fit into a certain mold, so to speak.
Yeah. And with that kind of him becoming uptight and then kind of throughout the movie becoming less of that, I think the costuming did a good job of showing that, because when you first meet him, he's in like a full suit with a tie and everything. Yeah. And then when he comes back from Iceland the first time, well, like in Iceland, first off, he he gets like the red shirt.
Right.
And when he's riding down the mountain, so he's kind of less uptight clothing. But then when he gets back from Iceland, he goes back to work and he's still in that suit, but he isn't wearing a tie.
Yeah.
So I like that he's kind of starting to loosen up a little bit there.
Yeah.
But then in the very end, he's actually like, he still has like a suit coat on, but he's wearing a t-shirt underneath. Yeah. So I like that progression of.
Yeah, and we see that kind of steady progression throughout the film with him wearing the suit, and he jumps into the water, so he has to get out of those clothes. And that's just, you know, a lot of times that jumping into the water, it's kind of brings to my mind the symbolism of a baptism, of this, you know, that step of, you know, I'm going to be changing as a person. So he comes up out of the water and he meets this sailor and he meets all these different people, and they give him or trade with him certain things that then mold and change his identity to this new person that he becomes, where he gets the sweater from the sailor and he gets rid of the Stretch Armstrong and he gets this longboard. He tears his tie as he's longboarding, preparing to longboard down this steep mountain road, and we see several of those changes throughout the film, kind of showing that change from that uptight person to this, back to this kind of more adventurous, more relaxed person. Yeah.
And I like with the longboard that even when he's in Iceland, he's really far away from home and everything, but he still thinks about Richard, or I think it was Richard.
Yeah, I think it went by Rich.
Cheryl's kid. Yeah. Still thinks about him getting the skateboard for him.
Recognizing that, that's something that he liked, skateboarding, and he would probably like this longboard, right? And so I thought it was kind of interesting. He's trading the Stretch Armstrong, which was a part of his childhood. So it's him sacrificing that to be able to receive something else that he can then be able to give off to another child to have. So it's kind of like this passing on to kind of develop this child father figure kind of interaction where we have a little bit of that.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I like that. One other thing I wanted to talk about was the product placement in this movie, because they use real businesses and stuff for like Papa John's and eHarmony and Life.
Right. Yeah. That was something that I was unsure whether that was completely intentional or what role that had, but it seems to me like they had flexibility, especially with like Papa John's. He could have had any kind of fast food or retail kind of job once his father died and he needed to step up to help support the family. But maybe it was just they chose Papa John's to make that joke about the father figure of working for this family pizzeria called Papa John's. Well, I didn't even call my dad Papa.
Yeah.
So didn't really affect him.
But also, I think a lot of movies they would make another business up for that sort of thing. I like how they use real businesses. It makes the movie feel more real.
It's true. Yeah.
But it's also kind of weird because I think it was product placement. Like they actually got paid for it. Yeah. But a lot of the businesses they don't necessarily show them in a good light. Like Papa John's, he didn't like being there because it reminded him of his childhood.
Right.
And then eHarmony, like the first time you see the website, it doesn't work.
It doesn't even work.
And then in the end, he cancels it because he can't afford it.
Right. Spent all of his money, traveling the world. Which was another thing that I thought was interesting, that you start off the film with a shot of showing his finances.
Yes.
And wondering, okay, that's kind of one of the main things that he seems kind of focused on. Is like, well, I have money, I'm providing for my mom, I'm helping my sister out, I'm trying to keep the family together. And when the mother is not able to get the piano into her new home, they're like, well, it's gonna be more expensive, but let's get this villa that's gonna be able to hold the piano. And then they don't even keep the piano at the end of the movie. They end up selling it. So throughout the movie, I'm thinking, wow, what's going to be the significance of this piano? It's this thing that the father bought for the mother, the husband bought for the wife, and it must hold a lot of dear memories and thoughts, sentimental value. But the mother says, no, it was, it's fine. We're a family. We're together. The piano doesn't matter. So I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, but it does kind of play that big role in the movie because he has the picture of it, and he realizes that Sean had been there.
Right? Yeah.
Going back to the shot of the checkbook or balance book or whatever it was, I like that comes back later because I feel like some movies would have just done that at the beginning to set up that he's very, what's the word?
Meticulous. Very careful with keeping track of.
Yeah, but then this one, it's like even after he goes to Iceland, it still shows him balancing his checkbook. I feel like most movies would have said like now that he's gone through this, he's more of a adventurous person. He's not going to do this. But I like that it still keeps that same character trait throughout the entire movie.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that I feel like that's something that is kind of important for him as a character as well, that he maintains that kind of focus and meticulousness of, well, I need to have something that's going to be keep me grounded in where I'm at, because if I just keep throwing away this money, then where am I going to end up? I'm already losing my job. What should I be going to next? So it shows that he's still kind of focused on more than just this chase for Sean O'Connell in this print number 25.
So one more character that we haven't really talked about yet is Walter's co-worker of Hernando.
Yeah.
Walter was the boss of Hernando.
Yeah, it was interesting to me that when they were walking out with their stuff, Hernando says that line of, "You were a good boss, Walter," and in my mind, I'm thinking, wait, he was the boss?
Yeah.
I felt like they were more just kind of co-workers. They didn't really feel like a boss-employee kind of relationship. It seems as if they're very close.
Yeah, when you watch it again, you do see that Walter's kind of telling him what to do, but it's not really like in a boss type way.
Yeah, when he was like, okay, put this on the contact sheet.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, and he goes and does it. I thought was like, oh yeah, here, you want to take care of this part of the job,
Yeah.
and I'll work on this. It didn't seem like okay, this is delegating you to do this. It felt like even if Walter is in kind of like that boss kind of role, he's not overbearing or kind of belittling like some of the earlier superiors we see in the film. So a much nicer relationship between the two of them. Yeah.
And I do also like how Hernando's kind of he's a bit of a comedic relief as well.
Sure. Yeah.
Like when they're out on the road and everyone's moving the stuff out from the building and he sees his fern. He's like, "That's my fern.
That's my fern." He has to go and grab it. Yeah. Yeah. So of all the things that you want to make sure that you grab when you're leaving a job, you have to have your desk fern. Can't forget that. Which I'm not really sure how well it grew. I don't know. I guess ferns kind of do okay in darker.
Yeah, like they grow in the
rooms.
forest, so it's a lot of shade there.
Yeah. Yeah. So not so sure how much sun they get, which was another thing that I noticed was when Walter first walks into the building, he's walking through some of the main office space of Life magazine. There's people milling about and bustling everywhere, and it's very bright. There's lots of windows, and it's a very open area, and appears very inviting and an enjoyable workspace. But then we see Walter go down to negative assets and his own workspace. It's very dark and cramped, and there's only one other person, but it still retains kind of a little bit of that lively environment that he's not put off by being in this seemingly dark space. He enjoys being there with Hernando and working there.
Also, with him working in negative assets, I liked his relationship with Sean. Like, Sean, he was kind of like Sean's point man there, where he would always make sure Sean's work got
where it needed to go.
And Sean would consider him like a partner, like he finished his work.
Right, which is what the mother says, that they had to work together, complete and finish the work. Right.
One other big thing I wanted to talk about was just the cinematography in general. It just had a lot of interesting transitions and shots.
Oh yeah.
Like there's one shot, it starts in the negative assets department, and he's looking at the roll of film, and then it goes from that, and then he's sitting in the pool down there, and it just goes from the film strip to the looking down at the pool. It was really cool.
Right, that water in the film strip, that it seemed to me that it wasn't immediately clear as water, but then the instant it starts to transition, you see, oh, that's clearly waves as it transitions to him, and you even still see like Kodak, and you still see some of the writing from the film there in the scene where he's sitting there by that pool fountain area. Yeah. And
then in that scene, Cheryl walks up while he's sitting there, and Walter has those glasses on that magnify but when he looks up, he looks up at Cheryl, and he sees, or the camera shows like
the perspective.
Yeah, the perspective, and it's just kind of all glowing and everything around her. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which I kind of like that they used that kind of something in other movies. They'll use something similar to show that someone's like falling in love.
Right. Yeah.
That's practical.
They're literally glowing.
Yeah.
Due to the way he's being able to see her. Yeah.
And then also another thing with the visuals, when he's getting on the plane to go to Greenland, it shows the life motto just like in different places in the background. Right. As he's going through. It had a lot of creative ways to incorporate that and keep it in the forefront of the audience's mind, because you first see it when he walks into the building and it's on the wall behind him. So like that's your first time that you see this motto, and then you see it again when he gets the wallet. It's imprinted on the wallet, and then when he makes that decision, I'm gonna fly to Greenland, you see it throughout several different cuts of the scene as he's running to the airport. There on the streets and there on the walls, you see that motto. So it's continuously put in your mind, this is something important. This motto, this idea
is something, this purpose of life that the film's trying to convey is something that they believe in and feel is important for the audience to get. Yeah.
Another interesting thing with the plane is I found it very interesting. With the flight to Greenland, there's only 2 people on the plane.
Right.
Because you see them get off at the end and the 2 just shake hands.
Shake hands and walk off.
But on the plane, they're actually sitting next to each other.
Yeah, that entire 747 or whatever it is, seats, I don't know, over 100 people or whatever, and the 2 people on the flight just have to sit next to each other. Yeah. So yeah, it's seeing connection. Even we don't even know this person's name. We don't get any lines from this person sitting next to him, but they develop some kind of connection over that flight and shake hands and then walk off. So who knows what kind of impact Walter had on this man's life? Yeah, maybe that'll be part 2 of the story. We see the perspectives of Airplane Man. Yeah, and what happens to him. Yeah.
Also, I like this movie's use of colors. They had a lot of like differentiating between blue and red. Kind of blue represented his just being like a cog in the machine, basically, and red was the more adventurous color. Like right after they get off the plane, he goes to rent a car, and he has a choice between a red car and a blue car. And he chooses the red.
Yeah, which looking at like kind of symbolism of the colors, as you said, that's kind of this more sharper, brighter kind of color, symbolizing that more adventurous kind of outlook that Walter's trying to create and trying to put forth. Yeah.
Yeah, but then red keeps coming back up because he gets the red shirt from the sailors, and then at the end when he's climbing the Himalayas, he's again wearing red.
Right.
And at the beginning, he was wearing blue. His suit was had a very blue tint
had that blue tint to it. Right. Yeah. So even looking at his clothes changing, and we see new clothes, new man, we see even the color scheme of what he's wearing, trying to portray that change as a character as well. Yeah.
With those cars, he rented the red one, and then did he just leave it in front of the bar?
Right. Yeah. When he was running out of the bar, I noticed that he jumps in the helicopter and the camera zooms out and you just see it sitting there at the bar. I'm not sure what ended up happening to it, but I guess if that's the only 2 cars, or maybe 3, I thought I saw 3 spots. So I wonder what color that 3rd car would have been. Yeah. But if this car rental place needs their car back, they know where it is. There's only 8 people on the island anyway, so I'm sure they'll be able to find it and get it back.
Yeah. I also found interesting with Walter Mitty's character how good of shape he was in. Yeah. Because in Greenland, he runs like 17 kilometers to the volcano.
Right. I was wondering, he biked a certain distance and then runs into a pole and throws away the bike. Yeah. So I don't know how far he was able to bike before he started running, but either way, that's quite a distance, and it's going to take quite a bit of time for him to be able to get to where he's trying to go.
And then right after that, he still has the leg strength to skateboard down the hill.
Without just falling down. Yeah, my legs would be spaghetti trying to do something like that. Yeah, just thinking about skateboarding, longboarding down this mountain road would terrify me.
Yeah.
And another scene that I thought was interesting, right at the very beginning when he's setting up that eHarmony profile, we have several different shots that kind of build that anticipation. We have him looking at his profile and it's empty, and he's like, well, I guess that's good enough. And now the whole purpose of me making this profile was to be able to try and connect with Cheryl, so let me try and get her attention. So wants to send her a wink, and then loses his cool and stands up and walks around, and we have that shot where he has his finger hovering over the button, and we have that shot of his finger hovering over the button, and then it cuts away and he doesn't press it, and then he builds his resolve again, and we have it hovering over the button again, And so continuing to build that tension and anticipation, I thought was a very interesting shot, very interesting camera angle to kind of get the audience anticipating and interested in, is he going to go for it or not? And then we have that release of, he presses the button and it doesn't even work anyway. Yeah. So kind of a little bit of like this build up and then this let down of that anticipation. So I thought that was kind of a interesting scene that sets the tone for a lot of this movie, where we have that anticipation and we have kind of this tension and this excitement, but then we still have a lot of this comedic kind of backbone that comes into play and releases some of that tension throughout.
Yeah. So I think the one last thing I wanted to talk about was the end credits. That a lot of photography there, just from the different locations of the different characters.
Yeah, we kind of get a little bit of a where are they now kind of thing. We get to see, what do we get looking back at these characters as the end credits go. We have that film reel go through. Yeah, and
it has some like pictures from Walter's childhood. It had like his parents as younger, and some of him, and like one of his sister as a kid. I liked.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting. Like they have these pictures of him as a kid and his Dessa, his sister, as a kid, but we never really see them in the movie. Yeah. So they had these characters, these actors portray them as kids simply for this kind of end credits of, let's look at these different snapshots of the life of several characters. Yeah.
And then all of the pictures from the different places were very beautiful. It had a bunch of stuff from Iceland.
Iceland, right. Yeah.
It ended with the Aurora Borealis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which is on my bucket list, to be able to go to some place and be able to see the Aurora Borealis.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so that'll have to be a trip that we plan one year. Maybe go to Iceland and hope that it doesn't rain like we've heard it does sometimes.
Yeah. And that will do it for this video. We would like to thank Mill Eastup for creating our opening theme.
And join us in the comments section below to go over any questions, throw in your opinion, or rant about any factual errors we might have made in our discussion of the secret life of Walter Mitty.
And subscribe so you don't miss our next video, where we will be discussing The Princess Bride.
This has been FoxTales Movie Club. I'm Tony.
And I'm Fox, and we'll see you in the next video.